Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today I want to talk about what I like to call guitar utility pedals. These are things like channel switchers, Y splitters, any sort of little, box that you make or that you purchase that takes your signal and routes it different ways. And I have 4 examples here of things that I have built DIY. And the beauty of these types of pedals is that really all you need are 1/4-inch jacks, wire, an LED if you feel so inclined, or in this case of these 2 pedals, you also would need a foot switch. So I thought I would just go through these 4, briefly describe, how to make one. I'll throw some images up just to kind of show the basics of the wiring, but these are all things that you can find online, super easy, DIY, amp channel switcher, and it's literally just a few connections. So anyway, let's get started. I'd like to start with this Y splitter pedal I made. This is literally a junction box that you would buy at the hardware store for like $1.79. The cover's like an additional $1.29. So as you see, we have an input jack here and 2 output jacks on the top. And I use this down in my studio where I plug out of my pedal board into here, and then I have 1 lead going to my tube amp, and I have 1 lead going to my Fender Bandit solid state. And it literally is as simple as going hot to hot to hot, ground to ground to ground. And there you go. It's super simple. But super useful. And buying these pedals pre-made, you're going to get into like, 20, 25 bucks maybe. And, if you have jacks laying around and some wire and solder and you go buy one of these boxes, you can make one of these really easily. And the cool thing about something like this is that if you've never made anything before, like you've never made a guitar pedal, you've never really fabricated anything on your own, this is just a great place to start. I mean, if you have the need for one of these kind of pedals to split your signal in half and send it to 2 sources, or the other thing that you can do is you could have, you can plug things into these and then have it sent into mono. So anyway, a cool little basic utility box, the Y splitter. Then if you take that same principle and you extrapolate a little bit, you can come up with something like this. Now I use this here in the shop, and what this is that's an input jack, and these are 3 outputs with switches on them so that I can cut signal and direct signal where I want. So when my lead comes out of my pedal board, it goes into here, and then this first one with this switch goes to my acoustic control core 117 combo. Then this one goes to my Fender Pro Junior, heavily modded one, the dark one. And if you haven't watched that video yet, go ahead and watch it on the Pro Juniors. And then this one goes to my 65 Showman head. And then this is another little utility just between these 2 jacks that I added in at one point because I was doing a speaker split that was a little bit weird. I don't use this jack or this switch any longer. But anyway, let's just stick to the basics of these 3. And so anyway, I can run 3 amps simultaneously, send my signal to all 3 amps, or 2 amps, or 1 amp. And usually I'm just running through the acoustic control core out here most of the time because it's the amp I can control the volume on the best. But anyway, the same logic holds. You go, hot to hot to hot to hot, ground to ground to ground to ground. Interrupters, the switches, just interrupt the hot signal. So it's just literally the hot leads go in here, then come up to there. And then activate, deactivate. Super handy, super easy to make. And if you have multiple amplifiers and you need to switch between them, or you like to A/B, it's just as simple as the flick of a switch. You could also put foot switches on this if you wanted, and you could have it on the floor so you could just switch between amps. And that would be handy in a live setting. I have no use for that at the moment, so this one's just a simple throw switch. All right. slightly more complicated, but not really, is a channel switcher. You could make one of these that has 2 foot switches in it, wired to a stereo jack. So if you have a reverb and a channel switch, you could do one like that. I have no need for one of those pedals currently, so I just have these single channel switchers. And what happens here is that you've got your ground and your live wire. Then your live wire goes to the switch. Then you bridge across the other side, and I'll have a little schematic up. And if you do a screenshot, you can take a closer look. But anyway, what this is, it's just an interrupter switch. So what this does is when you push it, then it sends signal to the amp, telling it to turn it on or off, and then you hit it again to turn it off. When there is a jack in here, this one is powered with current, plug-in, a wall socket. What am I trying to say? This one you use off the power supply on your pedal board. I have one that is battery powered. This can also be battery powered. I do have a 9-volt adapter in here. And I added an LED to this and the other one that I have that's just battery powered, so that when I hit it, the LED is activated when the effect is turned on. Like if you're turning on a reverb, or you're turning on, like for me, I'm using it on my 65 Showman to turn the vibrato circuit on and off. So anyway, super easy. Once again, this is just a simple utility box. Literally a junction box from the hardware store that I just did a little paint on and put an LED in. And it works great. Velcro even. So, super easy to build. Once again, fun to build. Your parts are going to be less than what you would spend on just buying an aftermarket one, unless you buy a really cheap one. What's cool about building something like this, I know this is beefy. I mean, this is steel. And all my connections are done with solid copper wire. Really, really robust. But now let's get into something using all of these kind of principles, but then we up the game a little bit. This is an effects switcher. There's no circuit board inside of this. It is just a series of jacks. You got an input, an output, and 2 input outputs here. So, how does this work? This is the bypass switch, and this is the flip-flop switch, as I like to call it. I call this pedal a flip-flop. I got this schematic off of Beavis Audio. Right now, there should be an image of it up. Do a screenshot, grab it, or just Google it. This is a super handy utility pedal to have. So you've got your input, your output, and your bypass switch. This LED is connected to the bypass switch to let you know whether or not this is engaged or not. You can turn it off, it's off. Turn it on, it's on. It does have a power supply just to light the LEDs. There's nothing else inside. So you would plug in an effects pedal here. Let's pretend that you plug in a DS1 right here. Input, or wait, let me remember. Yeah, inputs are here, outputs are here. So input, output, DS1, and let's say you've got a clean boost pedal. You put your boost pedal there. Now, traditionally, you might run your boost into the DS1 or any other overdrive or any other distortion, and then into your amp. Well, what you do with this switch is on a 4x3 foot switch. So it's got 4 lugs across, 3 lugs down. And what this does, when wired properly via the diagram, what this does, it reverses the order of those pedals. So if you put it, when the light is off, the boost is first, your distortion is second. When the light is on, it flip-flops them so that now your distortion is before your boost. And you could do this with, like, have a reverb and a dirt pedal that you're flipping back and forth, or a delay and a reverb pedal. And then you can just flip them back and forth. And so rather than buying like a 2-in-1 pedal, if you already have pedals that you love, you know, there's lots of overdrives out there that have like the boost and then the overdrive, and then you can hit a foot switch and you can flip-flop them. And that's great. They're usually expensive. Same thing with modulation units or time-based effects. Let's say you've got a great delay you love and a great reverb you love. Plug them into this. Hit that, you reverse them. Don't want either one? Kill them with that. And it just bypasses the signal. This is an incredibly useful pedal, super easy to build. Strongly advise anybody who does like to have that kind of flexibility or is looking at 2-in-1 pedals. If you already have pedals that you love, you can just build one of these yourself for, I don't know, this probably total cost about $40, and plug them into this. And then instantly you have a third pedal that flips them back and forth. Very cool. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about some easy to build little boxes that are fun for, just for the experience of building them. And if you have no experience building pedals whatsoever, these are very accessible and very easy to build and very useful. There's a ton of uses for these pedals, and there's no circuit boards. Like I said, there's some LEDs involved, a power supply if you have the LEDs. Otherwise, they can be passive, and you just connect the dots. It's literally that simple. Anyway, I thank you so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button. And the channel, like I've been saying, is really gaining traction. I'm super happy with everything that's going on here. I want to see more comments. If you've ever built things like this, post some pictures, give some advice. Maybe there's some things that I didn't cover. And I look forward to seeing you again soon with more content. All right. Take care.